So good morning, everyone. So actually, we are having sessions on pregnancy-related liver diseases right now, but due to some emergency, we had to change this one. So today, I'll be speaking on therapeutic plasma exchange in pediatric acute liver failure. There is not much data coming forward in the last 10 years or so. There was one study from our center, so I'll be using mostly the older data, but trying to bring in fresh perspectives on use of plasma exchange on pediatric acute liver failure. Just for the uninitiated, the new students, extracorporeal liver support system includes artificial liver support and bioartificial liver support, which could be human hepatocyte or porcine hepatocytes. Artificial liver support can be albumin based or it can be non-albumin based. So I'll be taking up the therapeutic plasma exchange, which is a non-albumin based artificial liver support system. Again, just for the new joinees, the blood is in the plasma, in the therapeutic plasma exchange, the blood is drawn. It undergoes plasmapheresis. The plasma is separated. The plasma containing all the toxins and the inflammatory mediators goes out and is thrown away, and the remaining components are mixed with a fresh plasma from a healthy donor and is infused back. Now, when we do plasmapheresis, the separation is something like this. The plasma is separate, the RBCs are separate, and platelets and WBCs are in between. And that is why sometimes you may find that after plasmapheresis, after therapeutic plasma exchange, you may have a drop in platelet because some platelet is near this plasma fraction. Now, what is the protocol? The ILBS protocol that we follow here for pediatric plasma exchange is we calculate the volume by using the formula. We calculate the blood volume first by a formula of 80 ml per kg, that gives a blood volume. Then we calculate plasma volume as blood volume into 1 minus hematocrit, and then based on the plasma volume we decide to do whether 1.5 or 2 times the plasma volume. So for a child with 20 kg weight, it may come out to be something like 1700 or 1900 ml, that is around 9 to 10 units of plasma will be required. Coming to the what is the basis for therapeutic plasma exchange in acute liver failure, there is release of DAMPs which are responsible for activation of the inflammatory mediators. Mainly there is monocyte activation leading to pro-inflammatory monocytes and neutrophil activation leading to pro-inflammatory neutrophils. So the main basis for HVP is removal of these DAMPs and the inflammatory mediators from the circulation. Obviously, if we are removing the neutrophils will not cause damage to the other tissues, extrahepatic tissues, and we expect there is some decreased extrahepatic tissue damage. But the main function is by attenuated monocytes and neutrophils, and by washing out the inflammatory mediators. Now, the proof of concept study done by Larson after their RCT on a very small subset of patients from their original RCT showed that markers of monocyte lineage, mainly histone-associated DNA, TNF-alpha, and interleukin-6, as well as this inflammatory mediator CD163 and 64, CCR7, all decreased in the plasma exchange group as compared to standard medical therapy group. Also, they showed that interleukin-6 only decreased in the cases where plasma exchange was initiated within 48 hours, but there was no significant difference if the plasma exchange was initiated after 48 hours. However, such difference was not seen in other inflammatory mediators. There was also decrease in the markers of neutrophil lineage, that is IL-8, in the plasma exchange group as compared to standard medical therapy, and in the markers of lymphocyte lineage. Way back in 1997, the same Danish group had shown that therapeutic plasma exchange leads to increased mean arterial pressure, that is improved hemodynamics in acute liver failure adults. And this was mainly due to increase in systemic vascular resistive index, probably due to washing out of endotoxins, and not due to any change in cardiac output. Cardiac output in fact decreased from a baseline. The same thing was confirmed in the 2016 RCT by Larson et al., which showed that in the this time they had a control group here, standard medical therapy, and they showed that in the plasmapheresis group there was increase in the mean arterial pressure by day 3. They gave therapeutic plasma exchange for first 3 days. So by day 3, there was increase in the mean arterial pressure as compared to the standard medical therapy. However, this effect was not sustained by day 7. And this was also apparent in the way that noradrenaline requirement decreased in this subset of patients. And there was no change in the ICP. Next, coming to the same group, in 1999 had shown that by increasing the mean arterial pressure, there was increase in the hepatic blood flow and oxygen delivery. Obviously, with increased mean arterial pressure, there is likely to be increased cerebral perfusion pressure. Now, the basic question that comes when we do therapeutic plasma exchange in our cases is whether ammonia is going down or not. Most of the times we see that ammonia doesn't go down in our patients. So what was the data on ammonia clearance? By the same group, 2001 American Journal of Gastroenterology, they showed that post-plasmapheresis, arterial blood ammonia concentration goes down significantly. However, the splanchnic exchange rate of ammonia did not differ significantly. Only the splanchnic exchange rate of glutamine increased significantly. They showed that HVP removes ammonia at a rate of only 1 millimole per minute, whereas it removes glutamine at a rate of 27 millimoles per minute. And this clearance of ammonia at 1 millimole per minute is largely insufficient as compared to the splanchnic ammonia release that is happening in patients with ALF. So if it were to work by only clearing ammonia directly, the ammonia is never likely to decrease. So how does plasma exchange then help in ammonia clearance? It is probably by clearance of glutamine, where muscle will clear ammonia by glutamine synthesis, and this glutamine will be cleared up by therapeutic plasma exchange, and ultimately leading to clearance of ammonia. And that is probably why a good chunk of our patients do not show a decrease in ammonia, because we are dealing with a lot of children with malnutrition, with sarcopenia, muscle loss, and if they have that kind of muscle loss, they are probably less likely to respond to therapeutic plasma exchange. And we need to go back and see our data. The data was not clear. I tried to see this, but the data was not clear whether the children with good muscle mass show a better ammonia clearance with therapeutic plasma exchange as compared to those without. The same study, the same RCT also showed that therapeutic plasma exchange, patients receiving therapeutic plasma exchange required lesser renal replacement therapy as compared to standard medical therapy group, despite having similar renal status at baseline. So if we talk about the mechanism of action, therapeutic plasma exchange mainly acts by modulating the pro-inflammatory markers and decreasing SIRS, as we have discussed, and leading to ultimately decreased organ failures, improved SVRI, improved MAP, decreased inotropic requirement, and improved hepatic and cerebral blood flow. Apart from this, there is a small component of removal of toxins, not only glutamine, but also bilirubin, aromatic amino acids, and several other toxins which are removed by plasmapheresis, and ammonia is lowered. And there is a small part of transfusion of coagulation factors, especially in those with very high INR, correction of coagulopathy. But the big question is, does this all postulated mechanism translate to improved survival in acute liver failure? So there is only one randomized controlled trial where there were 90 and 92 patients in 2 arms. Patients included were ALF with HE grade 2 or more, and they, on an average, they received about 3 sessions of plasmapheresis. What is important to note here is the mean volume of plasma removed was 9 to 12 liter per session. Their outcome, what we can see in the group receiving liver transplantation, the first 2 lines, there was no difference between those not receiving plasmapheresis versus those receiving plasmapheresis. But if you see the bottom 2 lines, this is the group which did not receive a liver transplantation. So this is more indicative of actual outcome. So in the group not receiving liver transplantation, plasmapheresis, high volume plasmapheresis led to a better native liver survival as compared to the group which did not receive plasmapheresis. and this difference was significant even in those meeting liver transplant criteria. The numbers are reversed here, but there was significant difference between the two. So this is the only RCT, and this showed that native liver survival improves with therapeutic plasma exchange as compared to standard medical therapy, provided the volume should be like something like 9 to 12 liters per session here. There were no significant difference in complications. The main complication we are worried about is sepsis. So in this study, there was no difference in sepsis between the two groups, cerebral edema or hypothermia. So much so that in that same year, by the end of same year, the American Society of Apheresis gave a grade 1A recommendation for therapeutic plasma exchange high volume in adults with acute liver failure based on this just one RCT. And for normal therapeutic plasma exchange, which is not high volume, they gave a recommendation of grade 2B. But are these results applicable to pediatric ALF, or have they been replicated? There are no studies as such. Now this is just an observational study. Will not read much into it, because out of 49 patients who received plasmapheresis, only 3 survived with the native liver. Most of the patients in this group were transplanted, so they are supposed to be probably a very severe group of patients which they have taken. Now this was a planned RCT which could not be which was later modified because randomization was not feasible, and it was done as a non-randomized study. It was Aarti's thesis here. So where she took ALF with INR more than 4 or INR more than 3 with HE, and she gave and where there was increasing INR or increasing HE, and of them she gave them the option of high volume plasma exchange. Those who took up the options were the cases, and those an equal number of patients were taken as controls. Now what we see in her data, that there was decrease in bilirubin, albumin, INR, ammonia. That is all expected, that will happen with therapeutic plasma exchange. This is 12 hours post SP plasmapheresis value. And there was improvement in diastolic BP, suggesting that there was improvement in SVRI. However, when we see the outcome, in the HVPE group, there was only 21% survival with native liver, and in the standard medical therapy group, there was 29% survival with native liver. Obviously, this could have been affected by the fact that HVPE group had a large number of indeterminate ALF, whereas standard medical therapy group had a good number of viral HAV-related ALF, but the difference in between the two groups in the etiology-wise was not statistically significant at baseline. And now if we see the outcome chart at day 30, we find that there is no difference between the HVP group, this is blue line, and between the standard medical therapy, that is green line. If we want to read more into this, I would like to, maybe, this is not statistically significant, but if you see at day 3, there is a difference between those receiving HVP versus those not receiving SMT. The difference was there till around day 7, and then this line goes below the standard medical therapy. So what would that mean? Would that mean that a plasmapheresis gives you a time of maybe 7 days, by which you need to do a LT, and if you are not doing an LT by this time, then it's not going to make a difference further. You can only maybe, what inference I can draw from this is, LT can only bridge for a few days, within which you have to arrange for a liver transplant. Otherwise, it may not be beneficial. It will not be beneficial, at least from the pediatric data. However, the major limitation of this study was it was a non-randomized trial, and this is an unpublished data yet. So where could we have gone wrong with this study that we undertook? The most important point which I feel is that this is the recommendation by the American Apheresis Society, that therapeutic plasma exchange is usually 1 to 1.5 times total plasma volume, and high volume therapeutic plasma exchange is target of 15% of ideal body weight. Now, if you see our protocol that we followed, a 20 kg child, hemoglobin of 10, it will work out to be, if we do 1.5 times the plasma volume, it will work out to be something like 1680 ml. Now, if we do the ideal HVP protocol, that is 15% of body weight, that will amount to around 3000 ml. So, that is almost double. Probably we should have been doing a double amount of volume for the therapeutic plasma exchange here. So, what we are doing, it was probably only a therapeutic plasma exchange. We are not doing high volume plasma exchange, and that could be one possible reason why the results were not so good. Because if you have to go for a therapy, we have to go wholeheartedly for it. Now, possible complications of therapeutic plasma exchange, obviously there will be procedural complications, there will be immediate complications, and there will be delayed complications. Procedural complications can always be managed, like increased inotropic requirement, which can be managed by priming with PRBC. Then there is extracorporeal circuit block, which can be done by ACD, but then it is not required most of the times in ALF. Immediate complications like fluid overload can be managed by meticulous fluid administration or restriction, I mean. Metabolic complications can be managed again. But what about delayed complications? The first thing was sepsis. Again, it was not statistically different between the two groups in our study also. So sepsis has not been shown to be a significant complication in any of the major studies. And now, which brings us to the last two complications which are possible. That one, once we decide for a therapeutic plasma exchange, we don't leave any scope for listing the patient or delisting the patient. Now, if the patient is improving, his liver is improving, we have no way to actually know that the patient is improving. And once we have taken a decision for liver transplant, I think we have to go ahead with that. So that option of listing and delisting goes away. And the second possible is delayed complication is whether it removes the regenerative factors. So what we have seen is most complications are preventable or are transient. Now what about this delayed complication? Does therapeutic plasma exchange wash out the regenerative factors as well? Now obviously if you are washing out the plasma of the patient in whom the liver has started to regenerate, we will be washing away all the liver regenerative factors, especially the non-mitogenic cytokines, the growth factors, everything, all the growth factors that are present responsible for regeneration, which are present in patient's plasma, will be washed away. And what we are replacing with is a plasma from a normal healthy donor. And a plasma from the normal healthy donor will obviously not have regenerative cytokines. Only plasma from a patient who had liver injury, maybe like acute liver failure or a hepatectomy, only those patients will have a regenerative cytokines. So if our timing of selection, if our selection is not meticulous, and we select a patient at that time point when the liver has started to regenerate, we are likely to cause more harm by washing away the regenerative cytokines and replacing them with a plasma of a healthy person which will not have regenerative cytokines. So that again ultimately brings us to that final question, that when to intervene, when to do a plasmapheresis. Now my bet will be when an acute insult has happened and the patient is going downhill, that is the time when there is active SIRS, and that time you need to wash off the inflammatory mediators and your plasmapheresis is likely to help. If you take the patient at this time point, somewhere at this time point when there is change from damage to regeneration, we are likely to cause more harm. And how can we find that? Very difficult to find out, but INR trend may be the earliest indication, that if we do 2 INRs maybe 4 to 6 hours apart, that may give us an indication whether the patient is in regenerative phase or not. But that comes at a price. We are then waiting for 6 to 8 hours, and we may be missing out on the golden period to do plasmapheresis, because plasmapheresis, as I have shown, that it should be done as early as feasible. So it's a gray zone again. One disease where plasmapheresis has been actually useful even in pediatrics is Wilson disease, not exactly presenting as ALF, but those presenting with even presenting with encephalopathy and with fulminant, not exactly fulminant, but subacute like presentation, where therapeutic plasma exchange has been found to be useful. Now, this was the first study in 2016 from the ASFA registry on Wilson disease. They did only for 10 patients, and they showed that they could bridge the patients to liver transplantation, because only one patient survived with native liver and 9 underwent liver transplantation. But we recently, last month, we published again Aarti's, not Aarti's, but a part of that study where the plasma exchange was being done for Wilson disease patients. So, in this study, we included patients listed for liver transplantation based on NWI more than or equal to 11 and or ARC score more than equal to 11. We started using ARC score after the ARC score came. So now we use ARC score. So listed for liver transplantation based on ARC score or NWI with constants for immediate LT. INR more than 2.5 with static or worsening INR and HE. And again, they were given an option, and SMT versus HVP versus SMT, again non-randomized trial. HVP group 19 patients, SMT group 18 patients. The baseline was almost comparable, except that the patients in standard medical therapy group had higher degree of liver atrophy. So they were probably a sicker group of patients, but there was a survival benefit with therapeutic plasma exchange as compared to standard medical therapy in this very small subset of patients of Wilson disease. So that is one etiology where we have shown benefit of HVP in acute liver failure like presentation. So what would be my protocol for extracorporeal liver support system? So if there, and everyone has a right to differ now. So if there is a pediatric acute liver failure, if we are doing a randomized control study, then yes, I would say initiate plasma exchange or CRRT based on the study protocol. That is absolutely valid. But if you are not doing it at the part of study, then how do we proceed? I would say first thing, we need to decide whether there is an indication for liver transplantation or not, because this question cannot be answered once you have taken up patients for therapeutic plasma exchange. If the indication is not clear, I would wait on any therapeutic plasma exchange. I would instead consider CRRT, because on CRRT we can still determine if the patient is improving or deteriorating. And if there is definite indication for liver transplant, I would list the patient for liver transplant and would see if the liver transplant is feasible in the near future, donor is available, and everything is in place. I might not do a liver therapeutic plasma exchange, but if you need some time, like donor preparation and all, then I would consider plasma exchange as a bridging therapy. However, if there is no donor available or LT is contraindicated or there is some logistic issues, I would consider early therapeutic plasma exchange. But now, from the next patient, maybe I would go for a high volume plasma exchange, and I would initiate it early and stop by 3 days and observe thereafter. And we need multicentric trial on pediatric acute liver failure. Only then we can answer this question of whether therapeutic plasma exchange works or not in pediatric acute liver failure.